All right, you're welcome back. We're going to switch topics now and go completely left with this one, away from politics and all of that. And we're going to be talking lifestyle, hair, and everything along those lines. I have you with me, Ade Balogun, who's an architect.
Yes.
Thanks for being here today.
Thank you.
Let's start with that part now. Architecture. It's a very interesting trade or a profession.
Profession, yes.
You did lose one of your icons, as I did recently. How's architecture doing in Nigeria? Is it viable?
Well, that's actually a very interesting topic, considering I was coming here to talk about hair.
Put that.
Yeah, but I think it's a viable profession. I think there are very few architects who are practicing architecture.
Yeah.
Because of how things are structured generally in profession in Nigeria, professionals are not really paid much. So you find architects becoming builders and contractors and not necessarily architects anymore in order to make ends meet. And I think that's the biggest problem.
Yeah.
I think the regulatory bodies can do more. I'm talking about our professional bodies can do more to try and standardize things, and maybe we'll stop to see.
Is it woman-friendly in Nigeria?
Generally, such professions are not. I practiced architecture for a while, for just over 3 years and a half thereabouts, in a proper architecture firm. And I say you have to stand your ground to be heard.
So what did you switch to?
Okay, my journey has been interesting. I switched from architecture to e-commerce. I worked with Deal for a bit. Then I worked with Konga for a bit. And now I own my own business doing hair.
Doing hair?
Yes.
Which is what we're talking about in architecture. So when you say you started your own business doing hair, what exactly are you doing?
Dreadlocks, as many people popularly call them, but I prefer to call them locks. We can talk about that later.
I think many people call it dada, not necessarily locks.
Yeah, okay, so locally...
Is that an offensive term, dada?
Dada? No, not to me. I think it's the local way of calling locks, so I don't think it's offensive.
Okay.
I think dreadlocks is more offensive than dada because of the word dread in front of the locks. But
Okay. What about dreads?
Okay, so let's go back to why it's called dreadlocks in the first place. Dreadlocks became popular in Jamaica because of the Jamaican conformists, and these people were opposing societal norms, and they were dreadful to, and they kept their locks. And part of the ways they chose to oppose norms was not to comb their hair, and if you don't comb your hair, it locks. So they became the people with dreadful people with locks, and it became dreadlocks. However, I now wear locks, and there's nothing dreadful about me or my hair, and I believe that we can leave the dreads and the dread.
But people still call it dreads. So dreads, is that offensive then? Calling it dreads or dreadlocks?
Depends. So if you don't know this history, I called my hair dreadlocks for a very long time. But when I did a little bit of research and I realized why it was called dreadlocks, I decided to call mine.
Okay, so you personally find it offensive is what you're saying? Or
not offensive, but rather just not have it called dreadlocks.
So why did you make the switch now? What was so fascinating about locks, before I say dreadlocks, about locks that made you want to switch to do that as a business? Okay,
it wasn't intentional, to be honest. So I had started growing my own hair locked, kind of opposing societal norms as well, and just wanting to be me and not like everybody else. And somewhere in the middle of the line, or somewhere down the way, I wasn't happy with my stylist. My hair was kind of looking a certain way all the time, and I wanted to change things up a little bit. So I was going to cut my hair, and my boyfriend asked me not to. Apparently he liked them, even though at the time he had never told me he liked them. And so because he liked them, I put in an extra effort to style my hair differently, and then I started writing a blog, and then other people with locks started reaching out to me to say, oh, I want my hair to look as nice as yours, and people were offering me money to do their hair, and I'm like, okay, this doesn't come by every day, why not? And it's a business.
So what you have now, you have a salon, is that what it is, or what exactly is it?
Okay, so there's Lockitude is the name of the business, and I think I'll call it a community. So the blog is still there. We have a yearly magazine that we publish. There's a studio which we do just locks. We help people start and maintain their locks as well. And then just yesterday we had an event called Lock Appreciation Day, which we had a bunch of, I've never seen so many lockheads in the same place at the same time.
Lockheads, I like all the terms.
Yeah, and so right now is a community, and the salon or the studio is one of the ways we are able to keep in touch and reach one another.
So people come in there to get their hair locks or get advice on how to handle their hair and stuff like that.
Exactly.
With you, how long has it taken you to grow this, what you have on your head now?
Okay, so this is all mine, and it's been 6 years.
No artificial,
no artificials,
extensions.
all mine, yes. 6 years and about 7 months. So I'm going on to my 7th year very soon.
Is this length usual for 6 years, or
Thereabout. So textures, treatments, and basically we're all different, so our hair grows differently. So you might generally find somebody with 6 years worth of locks longer than mine or shorter than mine. So it varies. But this is about, and then I've had my hair trimmed just a little bit to get rid of some weak ends. So, but this is about the length you get if you keep.
When did it become a thing, though, in this part of the world? Because I mean, like you said, Jamaica has always had that, but for a long time, locks were seen as not looked at as very professional, or for people who were decent. You know, it's like that one has that, like I said, on her head or on his head. It's not seen in very good lights. It's probably starting to change a bit.
Yes.
But I mean, so when did it start becoming a thing where people like you could say, okay, I want to do it, and I don't care what you think?
Okay, so 6.5 years ago when I started my locks, they were not popular at all. Nobody was doing them. In short, I got my hair locked the wrong way. They were putting coffee and toothpaste in my hair. I didn't know.
Coffee and toothpaste?
Yes. To try to get it to matte. I didn't even know what it was, because you go to the salons and they bring out their
products, whatever
concussions, and you know, my pillowcases were stained. It was a battle back then. But you would probably agree that in the past 2-3 years, more people have started embracing natural hair. More Nigerian girls have been, you know, out with their hair. And I think locks are beginning to be an option for people who are choosing to go natural. Because the natural hair in Zulu states can be difficult. I don't want to use the word difficult, but can be difficult to maintain. And with locks, the maintenance is easier. Yeah.
So with this now, is this something you can decide to turn into an afro, or to go back, you have to chop it off?
I would
recommend... This is locked?
Yes, it's
okay.
locked.
So it can be washed off and straightened out again, can't it?
No. When I wash my hair, you lose... so some of the bits by the roots are unraveled because they are not yet locked, because it takes some time before your hair finally gets into the matted form. And I can choose to pick it out, but that takes like weeks, months maybe, and I would lose a lot of hair, and what I will have left may not be healthy. So I decided before I even started that if I was going to stop, I'll chop it off.
Let's go back to perception now, because you said even now it's not necessarily accepted. And so what sort of reactions do you get when you, or did you get when you started, especially since you were probably working in a professional setting?
I was actually working in an architecture firm, and it was very funny. I had male-dominated industry, so a studio full of guys, and I'll walk into the office, and they will call me Taribo West, you know.
I'm sorry.
And, you know,
I didn't see that coming.
No offense to Taribo West, but they will call me
Taribo West.
You know, like, oh, are you Taribo's cousin? And they would tease me about my hair a lot. So I knew I didn't want to put relaxers in my hair anymore. I can't really say why. I just felt my hair needed to be by itself, and this was the best thing I could do to it. And I decided to stick by it. I'd also seen a few people with longer locks, like I have now, and I just felt if whatever they did to make their hair get there, maybe if I stick with it, I'll get there. And that's what happened.
But the people have always said that the beginning stages are very, very annoying. So waiting out for that 1 year or 2 years before it becomes sort of nicer to look at or to handle.
Okay, so right now that I have all this length, I sometimes miss my short hair. I sometimes miss when it was that awkward moment. And I think it's a thing of perception. When you... I don't know how to put it. When other people or when you're in your head, you've kind of head told over and over again that this is not the way to look, then you feel it's not the way to look. But if you really look at short locks, they are beautiful the way they are. And I would advise anybody who is choosing or going through that phase now to enjoy it. So it's not even a matter of awkwardness or, yes, you can persevere because it might not be what you want it to be, but you have to enjoy it.
I did see an article once about a lady in the States who had gone in for an interview, and she had dreadlocks, or locks, I beg your pardon, and the Caucasians who were interviewing her had said, well, we like you, but we're not sure about the hair. Something along those lines, because it wasn't very conventional in the kind of workplace they were going to, and she was going to be interacting with people who were not understanding of the hair. Now, I know that bordered more on race. Did you find anything besides the Taribo West names where people treated you differently, maybe in the professional space, because of the way your hair was?
Not really.
Have you heard stories?
Yes,
in Nigeria?
I have heard stories, yes. I actually even know someone who sadly had to cut his hair because he was trying to get a job. And it's actually worse for the guys, because with my length now, some people think my hair is not even my hair. Other ladies ask me,
oh,
what extensions did you use? Or they think it's just a phase. You take out this thing you're doing at some point. So it's difficult and it's a problem. But let's talk about something else for a little bit. Imagine, you're wearing a nice suit now and all very English and very professional. And I would imagine if you were wearing something traditional, it would be okay as well, because we're now at that point where it's professional to wear. Yes. Or whatever, yeah. So it's all about perception. If you can look beyond the hair. I've not seen a reason why a white person walks in and you're looking at their hair. And I also have a theory that all Africans and people with kinky hair are supposed to be locked. Just like you. You told me before we started that you haven't combed your hair in a bit. And if we look closely, it's already beginning to lock. So we wake up every day.
My boss just looks closely now.
If we wake up every day, most of us are trying to do the exact opposite of what our hair really wants to do. And if we're at that point where we can accept that it is okay to choose to wear your own hair in the way it decides to grow, and you accept that, and you take people for who they are, then, it's
harder for guys, like you said, definitely, because in this part, long hair.
Mm-hmm. It's frowned at.
Yeah, for guys generally. Then it's not locked, and, especially in professional spaces, like we say. So when you see guys who have it, and what sort of stories do they tell you, and how do they get to handle it?
Yeah, so most people that are able to handle locks, guys, are usually in entertainment industry or some form of creative.
Because that is more acceptable, yeah.
Yeah, sort of
there's
creative.
No judgment.
Yeah, and then you have some other guys walk up to me and tell me, oh, I would really like to have this, but I can't. So I think we need to start looking inwards, and I kind of like what is going on in the whole society and our economy right now, and the push for made in Nigeria and embracing our Nigerianness. And I think embracing locks is something Nigerian and natural that there's no, if you just stop and think about it, like, why are you criticizing somebody for wearing their own hair?
Is it because for a while it was seen as dirty? How do we transition from that to what we have now?
Okay, well, growing up, I would imagine we grew up around the same time.
Yeah.
The only people you kind of saw with locks are people that kept their hair for religious reasons, or people who are mad and on the side of the road.
Yeah.
And those things imprint into your mind. So the first time I told my mom I wanted to lock my hair, that was 3 years before I actually started.
She put her hand on her head.
No, she wasn't that dramatic. She was actually very calm. She usually is. And we're driving along the road and we see a mad person and she's like, Adi, see what you say you want to do to your hair. But now I have, because I carry my hair a certain way and I compose myself a certain way, I have parents walk up to me and say, oh, I would like my daughter to lock their hair.
Yeah.
So the more people like me show that it can be neat, it can be kept well, it can be beautiful, I'm sure it will be perceived differently, and hopefully more people will be able to wear their locks with pride.
We're going to take a break now. We'll come back. We'll talk more about locks and, of course, talking about lifestyle generally with Adi Balogun here. We'll be right back. Please stay with us.